Welcome to Enclave Culture, your haven for all things culture. Nothing in life is as personal to us as our memories. I would like to analyze these three psychological thrillers, Fight Club, Memento, and The Machinist, to examine how they use memory in different ways. To begin, David Fincher's Fight Club features a protagonist named Jack, who is suffering from split personality disorder and conjures up a new personality, Tyler Durden, who creates an anarchist cult who wishes to overthrow the entire economy to make everyone equal. This movie is based on a novel by Chuck Palahniuk, but it adapts the source material and does it in a unique way which makes it stand out. It brilliantly focuses on themes like insomnia, mental illness, split personality, destruction of the ego, and romantic love.
You're intolerable. You have very serious emotional problems.
The story clearly was inspired by the Buddhist belief of ego death, although Tyler Durden takes it to a very nihilistic level.
It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything.
The narrator, Jack, created the Tyler Durden persona so that he could be the person he never thought he could be. During the hotel room scene at the climax of the movie, Jack learns the truth about Tyler. After the narrator hears this news, the movie initiates several flashbacks, which reveal that Jack was actually talking to himself and that he was the one who created Project Mayhem, not the fictional Tyler Durden.
Stop trying to control everything and just let go.
The second example, Memento, is about Leonard Shelby, who suffers from anterograde amnesia, which makes it where he cannot remember anything since the night of his wife's tragic death after she had been murdered by criminals broke into their home. The film is such a great examination of forgetfulness, illusion, and the inability to cope with heartbreak. In Memento, memory is used in a very similar way to Fight Club. The only differences are the causes of the memory slip and the way the story is told. Jonathan and Christopher Nolan wrote the script in non-linear fashion, a narrative device that is rarely utilized correctly in cinema, but I would say that Memento uses it perfectly. The entire movie is told backwards. Guy Pearce gives the best performance of his career as Leonard Shelby. At the conclusion of the film, we learn that Leonard's wife was not murdered by criminals, but by her own husband. He accidentally murdered his wife because he overdosed her with too much insulin and forgot that he killed her. The movie expertly derails the audience from learning the truth through usage of a frame story about an old man named Sammy Jenkins who unintentionally murders his diabetic wife. Of course, the truth is that this frame story was in fact the story of the Shelbys. Before Leonard became a vengeful vigilante, he was once an insurance agent for a health company. Sammy was the toughest case of his career. Sammy was once a brilliant accountant who could memorize any number stream imaginable until he got into a car accident that left him with permanent short-term memory loss. As per company policy, Leonard made him perform all sorts of motor skill and reactionary tests to prove that he was suffering from anterograde amnesia. Sammy failed every single one of these tests. But still, Leonard was convinced that Sammy's memory loss was not biological, but psychological, which meant that he didn't suffer from brain damage at all. In the end, Sammy's memory loss proved to be so great that he had to be incurred in a mental hospital. However, Sammy was actually a con man who was faking his brain damage in order to sue the health insurance company for profit.
We turned down his claim on the grounds that he wasn't covered for mental illness. His wife got stuck with the bills and I got a big promotion.
So Leonard was correct about the nature of his illness. It was all a sham. The irony here is that Leonard merged the two events that occurred between he and Shelby's lives in order to provide some sense of logic to justify the tragedy that had occurred in his past. His psyche wanted to have something to compare to, even though nothing could compare to what happened to the Shelbys.
I didn't tell you what happened to Sammy and his wife?
In the climax of Memento, the corrupt cop Teddy reveals to Leonard that he has already gotten vengeance on John G. He tells Shelby that he was the officer assigned to his wife's case and that he believed in Leonard when he said there was another criminal behind her death. Teddy helped Leonard hunt down John G, and he allowed Leonard to execute the fiend himself. Teddy tells his old friend that he took the picture of him when he got revenge. Shelby was smiling in glee as he was covered in the blood of his wife's killer. Lamentably, Leonard soon forgot the fact that he expunged his enemy from the face of the earth.
But when you killed him, I was so convinced that you'd remember. But it didn't stick. Like nothing ever sticks, like this won't stick.
Teddy realized that Leonard would always be locked in a never-ending psychosis, forever, so he decided to capitalize on that. He exploited Leonard's disease for his own gain.
Is this a drug deal?
No. Yeah, that and your thing. Look, Leonard, Jimmy's your guy. I just figured we'd make a few dollars on the side.
For instance, he manipulated Leonard into killing Jimmy, who is now his boyfriend and a drug dealer, so he could steal his money. He made the protagonist believe that every criminal he killed was John G. Teddy claimed that Leonard should not have felt anguished by his sick existence, because he was living the dream of constantly seeking out justice for the death of his wife, and always hunting down the person responsible.
You wander around, you're playing detective. You're living a dream, kid. A dead wife to pine for. A sense of purpose to your life.
When Leonard learned this, he decided to twist everything he had just learned and decided to hunt down Teddy, since his real name is actually John G. Therefore, he would be his next victim.
Do I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy, yes, I will.
While believing that Leonard from anterograde amnesia is the most sympathetic way to view the protagonist and my favorite interpretation of the film, this isn't what Nolan intended. He and Jonathan wanted the character to be a villain who faked his condition, since he would rather live in an eternal false narrative where he is constantly searching for his dead wife's killer instead of accepting her death. Of course, this reading of the story ruins the idea that Teddy took advantage of Leonard because he never had any amnesia in the first place, meaning that Lenny willfully allowed himself to be exploited because it fit his own goals. Additionally, his tattoos serve not just as mental notes, but as enablers for his sinister yet justified crusade. Despite Leonard's quest being noble, he can be considered an antagonist since he was able to murder Jimmy even though he knew he was innocent. This was the second most heinous action that Leonard committed in the entire movie. The worst is that he slaughtered Teddy because he didn't want to hear the truth. Now, if we choose to accept that Shelby does suffer from amnesia, Teddy was not the only person who took advantage of his illness. Natalie screwed his mind because she blamed him for the death of Jimmy. She was right, but she was also just as twisted as Teddy in a way, because she knew what Leonard had done but did not seem to care. She knew what she was doing was terrible. She committed it anyway.
I've lost somebody too.
Natalie first met Leonard when he was driving her boyfriend's black Jaguar XK8 convertible and wearing his clothes. Later in the story, Natalie insults his dead wife and that she was going to use him for her own desires.
You know what? I'm gonna use you. I'm telling you now because I'm gonna enjoy it so much more if I know that you could stop me if you weren't such a fucking freak.
Infuriated, Leonard punches her in the lip. Then she runs out into her car. The protagonist desperately tries to write down that Nat is not to be trusted, but he forgets. Then she runs into the house, screaming that Dodd assaulted her. Dodd was Jimmy's business partner. Nat arranged for Shelby to murder Dodd since he wanted to kill her and take Jimmy's drug money. He blamed her for taking everything for herself, while he was left with nothing.
Okay, we untie him, we clean him up, and we march him out of here with a gun in his back.
A gun? Why would I have a gun?
What's even more twisted is that she slept with Shelby. They have the most twisted relationship in the entire narrative. If she really loved Jimmy so much, then how could she have sex with his killer? What was it that she liked so much about him? Was it because he was more courageous than her boyfriend, since Leonard was a killer and Jimmy wasn't? Or was it instinctual? To make matters even crazier, Nat gave Leonard Teddy's license plate, and the rest is history.
But even if you get revenge, you're not gonna remember it. You're not even gonna know that it happened.
My wife deserves vengeance.
Regardless, she knew she did deceitful actions, but committed it anyways. This represents humanity's ability to exploit the weak solely for gratification. The Machinist was directed by Brad Anderson, who also penned the screenplay with Scott Kosar about a machinist named Trent Reznor, played by Christian Bale, who becomes an insomniac after a traumatic incident in his life. This masterpiece handles themes such as guilt, redemption, delusions, and anorexia. Reznor's terrible insomnia has made him emaciated. It also has affected his sanity and his work life. At the machinery, it seems that the only three people that Trent can count on in his life is a prostitute named Stevie that he has fallen in love with, and a woman named Maria who has a child named Nicholas.
This place brings back memories.
Good memories, I hope.
Yeah.
These characters provide him with a sensation of ease compared to his anxiety-ridden life. Sadly, this does not last. Reznor starts to accuse Stevie of conspiring against him, prompting him to leave her. He then goes to see Maria at the diner she works at, but learns that she is not there. Trent starts to become frantic and initiates an altercation, demanding to see Maria.
I want to see Maria!
But the truth is that there is nobody with that name who works there. It was all mental delusion. If only things could have been disparate. Trent could have been like a husband to Maria and a father to Nicholas, and they could have had a beautiful, normal life together, but it was not meant to be. In the climax of the film, Reznor learns from a mental construct named Ivan, who is the manifestation of Trent's guilt, that he is in fact the source of everything that has gone wrong in his life. Reznor is given the revelation that the reason his life has collapsed was because he unintentionally murdered Nicholas by hitting him with a car and just drove away from the crime scene, leaving Maria behind with her dead son. This is where Trent's guilt comes from, because he could never forgive himself for what he committed. Once Reznor accepts the reality of his actions, Ivan disappears. The movie ends with Trent turning himself into the police and finally being able to sleep. The Machinist has some similarities with Fight Club and Memento for disparate reasons. Firstly, all three of the characters suffer from some sort of delusion and were both externally and internally affected by their illnesses. They are all changed by the reality of their actions. Trent Reznor, like Jack,
All the ways you wish you could be, that's me.
suffered from insomnia, and his delusions were created to make him a superior person. Furthermore, Trent strangely benefited from his delusions because they pointed him towards salvation and acceptance.
I know who you are.
Leonard from Memento also has this in common with the two characters, even if he was not an insomniac.
I have to believe in a world outside my own mind.
Anyways, thank you very much for watching this very special video of mine. I greatly apologize for my long, almost 1 year, 9-month hiatus. I've just been very busy with personal projects, working on my Master of Arts in English degree, trying to get another job. I've really been stacked with a lot of things on my plate, so I truly apologize for disappearing for so long, but I promise to be uploading more regularly from now on. And I think you all really appreciate the next video that I have planned. It's going to be quite unique. It's going to be a personal project of mine. I don't really want to say much because I want to keep it as a surprise. But thank you all for watching once again, and I hope you all stay safe. Take care. And for everyone who lives in the United States, have a very happy 4th of July. I know things are very complicated right now, but we could all use some positivity, regardless, to everyone around the world. Once again, be safe.